Hey, great day, guys. Today we are talking about subject to real estate investor. Okay, and first, my name is Sawan Belcher. This is me taking action on Instagram, and I myself, I'm a full-time wholesaler, landlord, rehabber, whatever you like to call me. I am a full-time real estate investor. Okay, and this subject that we're going to talk about today is one of the catalysts that took my business literally right here in the climax. Okay, and I say that because it's a really good strategy, for beginners to scale very quickly. When I mean scale, I mean not just to do more in business, but I also mean to increase your bottom line. Okay, now what you're going to get over the next 4 videos, okay, we're going to drop 4 videos on you, literally teaching you the ins and outs, the details, the nooks and crannies, things that most people don't talk about, for free. Okay, right here in these videos. Okay, so now I want you to, number one, first of all, I want you to make sure that you got a notebook. Okay, this is very, very important because when we're taking in information, right, on the daily basis, a lot of the times it doesn't stick. Okay, and it doesn't stick because we're hearing it and we're doing whatever we're doing at the time. Our minds hasn't had a chance to come down off of just dealing with the kids, off of just getting in with work, or off of that excitement because you just got a new deal under contract. So one thing that we can do to help slow our brains down so we can process things more easily, right, is to take out a notebook. Okay, write those things down. I like a nice thick leather journal. Okay, I'll put it in the link, the one that I actually use. But you want to write everything down that sounds interesting to you. Okay, anything down that you have a question, about that you need to learn more about. Okay, and then also just the 1, 2, 3, 4 steps from A to Z that you need to take, that you can take action on to make sure you're able to, apply this to your business. Okay. Now, if you don't know what subject to real estate investing is, okay, let me introduce you. This is the big player, okay? This is what the beginners should be doing that every guru is maximizing on, okay? So subject to is, what happens is the seller has something that they owe on, okay? I don't want to limit it to mortgages, okay? But the seller has something that they owe on, okay? And it's backed by the deed of trust, so it's attached to the house. They're making some kind of payment. In most cases, that's going to be a mortgage payment. So they're making a mortgage payment every single month, okay? And out of that payment, there's principal, there's interest, there's taxes, and there's insurance that's coming out of that payment, and it's going towards the pay down of that house. Okay. Hope you guys are sticking with me so far. So, and for whatever reason, something happens in their life, maybe death in the family, maybe divorce, or maybe something mentally challenging happens where that debt, right, where that payment, those items, the responsibility of taking care of a house, the maintenance and the insurance and taxes and all those things, for some reason, that weight is a little much to burden. Okay. So, I typically find that these deals are coming from people who are just purchased a house within the last 5 years, or those that inherit a house that comes with a mortgage and they already have their own house, but they can't afford to pay or don't want to burden themselves with paying grandmama's mortgage. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to be buying these houses by taking over these payments. Okay. Now, stop. This is not an assumption, okay? This is the beautiful part. This is not mirroring, one loan and now you go get your new loan. This is not using my own credit. This is not making a down payment. This is not anything that you're used to. This is something different. And so that's why I want you to hear and understand what's going on. So you're going to take over someone's payment, okay? And now, since you're going to take over their payment, the mortgage stays in that person's name, okay? But the house is going to be titled, it's going to be deeded to you or your entity, okay? Now, just to be clear, okay, when you're doing this, I always want you to put it in a trust. Okay, but don't let that blow over your head. A trust is just an entity that someone owns. You're going to own some entity that owns this house. So you don't necessarily own the house. Your entity, your business owns that house. You control the trust. Okay, stick with me. This is the strategy that you're gonna need to go up. Okay, now I came out of college. Okay, I didn't finish college. Okay, if you didn't finish college, drop something high in the comments below. Okay, now I didn't finish college. Okay, but what I did finish college with was a lot of debt. Okay, I literally went to North Carolina A&T, Aggie Pride, right? Took out loans, right? Took out grants. Got a band scholarship, took out additional money for books, took out additional money for food, took out additional money to have a place to stay. And then we get this nice big fat refund check. So you got that stacking up 1 semester, 2 semester, 8 semester. I'm an extra year. Okay. I went an extra year. So now I got extra debt on my shoulders and I didn't even finish. So once I decide I'm not going to finish school, I have a large amount of debt on me. Okay. Mind you, this strategy is not hindered because of my debt. It's not hindered because of my credit. Somebody else is coming to you with a loan packaged already up just for you. Okay. So you don't need to let that be an excuse for you. All right. So now you're thinking, okay, well, I don't have the down payment. I don't have the cash right now. Okay. In these series, we're going to show you how you don't need to have any of your own funds. Okay, you can use OPM if you need it, other people's money, right? You can provide value to someone else by having a good deal and having them bring you the funds for the deal. Okay, and then a lot of the times I bought these kind of deals and the mortgages were current. Literally, there's no back payments. Okay, everything in the house is pretty. Okay, and we're going to talk about that in the last video, this brand new construction that I purchased is subject to. Okay, now that's why this strategy is so important. It's not just for one category of person. This strategy, subject to real estate investing, is for everyone who's willing to take the time to learn the strategy, who takes time to get better, and who takes time to actually practice this actual knowledge. Okay. So now I will tell you now, every good thing isn't all gravy. It's not all 1,000% whoop-de-doo hoorah. There is some bad things about it because I've been sued before behind it. Okay. Now, luckily we came out strong because we had the right paperwork. Paperwork really does make the paper work. Okay. And that's why it's important that you pay attention to video number 2. Okay. So the downfalls to this is the mortgage is actually staying in the seller's name. Okay. Most people don't even understand how this is possible, but it's possible because I think it was like the 50s or 60s, people were starting to use debt and they were starting to use collateral. That way they can use other people's money. Cash wasn't really cash at that point. Now they're actually lending, people are lending money at this point. So they needed a way to pass along the mortgage if somebody died, right? And the kids had to take the property over. So now instead of making the house, one piece of paper, now is a house, which is the original warranty deed. Okay. And now is a deed of trust, which is the mortgage. So that's 2 pieces of paper. You got the owner on one piece of paper, says, hey, this is my house. You have the deed of trust, which is the mortgage, the person that lent the money who gave the funds on another piece of paper. So since there's 2 pieces of paper, simply one piece of paper can change without this one changing at all. Okay. So that's why it's possible right now. Okay. Now the downfall, like I said, is you have to leave that mortgage into the seller's name. So that means that the seller might not be able to buy a house, 2, 3, 4, 15, 20 years later when you still got this mortgage in their name. Right. They, for whatever reason, you didn't have the right paperwork, so you might not be able to talk to the bank freely about a certain issue. Like COVID came up 2 years ago, and one of the benefits to mortgage owners was the forbearance plan. Okay. Now, you wouldn't have been able to do that as a subject to real estate investor if you didn't have a limited power of attorney for the seller that you could simply give to the bank and say, hey, I'm power of attorney. I'm guiding everything that this, borrower has dealing with this particular property. I'm taking care of that for them. Here's why you can talk to me. Right. But if you didn't have that paperwork, if you didn't know, then you'd be stuck. You had to make that payment, even if your tenant wasn't paying rent. like what happened, what happened to millions of people. They said it was okay that tenants didn't have to pay rent. So you bought this house subject to, they're not paying you, and you don't have a way to call the bank to use that forbearance plan that everybody came up with, right? So there are some downfalls, and especially the downfalls don't really happen at the front. There's a couple, like the due on the sale clause, because you can have a mortgage call due, right? What happens is in the mortgage itself, when the borrower originally signs the loan paperwork at closing, there's a little clause that says due on sale, and that is the protection for the bank. So that way they actually get paid when the house sells. Okay. So this is not necessarily, considered a sale, so you need to make sure you're doing it. You're structuring it the right way. You're putting it in a trust. Okay. So that way you can have privacy, right? Where the trustee is you, Sawan Belcher, and the beneficiary is my LLC, Belcher and Belcher Properties. But no one can see that, not even the bank. Okay. Because if they see that now the deed changed from Mary Jane Sue to Sawan Belcher, now they know the deed changed. So now that clause comes into effect. Now you're getting a letter to say, hey, give me $150,000, right now in the next 90 days, or we're going to foreclose. Not good. So there are some downfalls that you have to be aware of, like what happens if you actually can't make the payment, of course, the seller's credit is going to be impacted. Okay. Now there's a lot of things that can go on in this particular transaction. So you just need to make sure that you're being organized and that you actually are aware, so that way when it does happen, you can tackle that. Okay. Now let me tell you the benefits. Okay. I always like to tell you the bad stuff before you tell you the good, but the benefits is, it's other people's money. This is how America's capitalistic system works, right? We use other people's money to leverage, so that way we can use their money to make money. And now we've just got an infinite return because we didn't have to use any of our own money to make $30,000, to make $50,000. I've even made $125,000 on one single subject to investing deal. Okay. And that's another benefit to you as well, because if you're on the grind, marketing for motivated sellers, talking to the sellers and only assigning contracts, only wholesaling, a lot of wholesalers are only making $5,000, $10,000 a deal. What if I told you implementing this one strategy is literally going to add an additional, right? You do 3 deals, it's literally going to add an additional $250,000 onto your bottom line, right? So you need to bring this in, as a strategy for you while you're marketing for motivated sellers. Okay. Now, another benefit to buying houses subject to is instead of you just being a wholesaler now, you can become a real estate investor. You can do so many exit strategies with the subject to method. Okay. You can buy a subject to and just go ahead and put it back on the market as is. Okay. That's called wholesaling. Now you're actually the buyer, you're the investor. So of course you're going to make a, larger deal size. See, the downfall to wholesaling is you have to sell your contract in 7-10 days. So you got to have a crazy deal or crazy connections. The deal is so good, people are willing to pull the trigger right now, buy it sight unseen, right? But when you're buy subject to and you make these small payments, $500 a month, $600 a month, $1,000 a month, you can literally wait 6 months, a year to get the number that you want, which means that you can request more, which means that you have time to find the right buyer that's for you. Okay. Now I'm telling you that because the easiest thing in this business to do is to make an additional $1,000 on every deal. Okay. Think about it. You do 50 deals this year. You do 50 deals this year, which is only what's that? 3-4 a month. Okay. 1 a week. Okay. If you add $1,000 to every deal, if you make $1,000 additional on every deal, now you're up $50,000, right? You make an additional $2,000, right? On every deal, you make additional $100,000. So it's important. It's easier to make more money on that one deal than it is to go find a new deal. Okay. This strategy is going to help you go from $5,000 average to $20,000 average. Okay. Now look, there's another video, coming right up that you need to pay attention for. Okay. Now this video is why sellers should not sell their properties to you subject to. Okay. Now you need to go look at this video because a lot of sellers are going to object that this is not a solution for them. They don't think is a good solution for them, and they definitely don't trust you. Okay. So the next video, if you'll click right here, right, it's going to take you to the next video and go through that objection training so you can close these deals, make more money, and change your life. Okay. Let's get it, guys.